The sunset cast a fiery orange glow over the bustling streets of Riverside City. Andrew Porter, a successful attorney, was on his way home after a long day in court. He leaned back in his car seat, adjusted the air conditioning, and let the soft hum of music wash away the day's tension. As he approached an intersection, the traffic light flashed yellow. He slowed down, but just as it turned red, flashing blue and red lights suddenly erupted behind him. A sharp siren cut through the evening calm. Andrew frowned, glancing into his rearview mirror before smoothly pulling over to the side of the road. From the patrol car behind him, a police officer stepped out. He was tall, with a neatly trimmed haircut and a badge gleaming on his chest. Officer Mark Reynolds approached with the air of someone accustomed to control. "License and registration," he commanded, his tone cold and authoritative. Andrew didn't hesitate, reaching into his glove compartment and handing over the documents. His expression remained calm. Reynolds took them, scanning each detail, not just verifying, but assessing him. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Reynolds asked, leaning slightly toward the window. Andrew kept his voice steady. "Not entirely, officer. You didn't come to a full stop when the light changed." Andrew gave a small nod. "I believed I slowed down appropriately, but if you see it differently, I understand." Reynolds was silent for a moment, his eyes narrowing. His focus had shifted from a routine traffic stop to something else, something he couldn't quite put his finger on, but it made him suspicious. "You're not from around here, are you?" he asked, a hint of derision in his tone. Andrew hesitated briefly. "I moved here a few months ago. My address is on the license." But Reynolds wasn't really listening. He was fixated on something that made him uneasy. "Where are you headed?" "Just going home." Reynolds crossed his arms, suspicion evident in his stance. "Step out of the car." Andrew gripped the steering wheel lightly, his face betraying no emotion. "Is there a reason for that, officer?" Reynolds smirked. "You don't want to make this harder than it has to be." The veiled threat hung in the air. Andrew sighed, unbuckled his seatbelt, and stepped out. Reynolds eyed him from head to toe, scrutinizing every detail. "Hands on the hood," Reynolds ordered. Andrew raised an eyebrow. "What exactly are you looking for?" "Weapons," Reynolds said flatly. Andrew chuckled lightly. "Do I look like someone carrying a weapon?" The question threw Reynolds off for just a second, but he quickly regained his composure. "That's not your concern. Just do it." Andrew slowly turned, placing his hands on the car's hood. Reynolds stepped closer, beginning a pat-down. His movements weren't just procedural, they were meant to intimidate, to establish dominance. Yet Andrew remained composed. His unshaken demeanor only seemed to frustrate Reynolds. "You seem pretty used to this," Reynolds muttered, his voice tinged with suspicion. "Got something to hide?" Andrew took a deep breath before slowly turning his head, locking eyes with Reynolds. "No, officer. I just believe in transparency." "Do you?" Reynolds' expression hardened, his hand instinctively tightening on his belt. "Watch your tone with me." Andrew's gaze remained sharp. "I just want to make sure justice is upheld, like any law-abiding citizen." "Don't you think so?" Reynolds started to reply but hesitated. For the first time in this encounter, he felt like he was losing control. Andrew slowly reached into his coat pocket, his movements deliberate. "I'm taking something out."
No sudden moves.
"Nothing dangerous. I just want you to see." Reynolds watched his every move, his hand hovering near his holster, ready to react. But instead of a weapon, Andrew pulled out a small leather wallet. He flipped it open, revealing a gleaming badge. "Andrew Porter," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Federal Police Ethics Oversight Division." Reynolds froze. His eyes darted from the badge to Andrew's face, shock creeping into his expression. "Ethics. Oversight," he stammered. "That's right," Andrew nodded. "I investigate cases of police misconduct and abuse of power. And, Officer Reynolds, I believe I have more than enough reason to launch an inquiry after tonight." Reynolds' face paled. He opened his mouth, searching for an excuse, but Andrew raised a hand to stop him. Think carefully before you say anything. Silence stretched between them as Andrew tucked his badge away, took back his documents from Reynolds' unsteady hands, and stepped back into his car. But before closing the door, he looked Reynolds directly in the eye. A badge doesn't make you powerful, officer. It makes you accountable. The engine hummed to life, music resumed playing, and Andrew drove off, leaving Reynolds standing frozen on the sidewalk, the last glow of sunset fading beyond the skyline. But for Reynolds, this wasn't over. This was only the beginning of what was to come. The next morning, Andrew sat in his office, focused on a report detailing misconduct within the police department. The name Reynolds appeared on the list of officers with suspicious activities. Even though he had been under stricter surveillance since the previous night's incident, Andrew knew that exposing the full extent of the corruption required more than a single street confrontation. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Linda, Andrew's assistant, stepped in with a large envelope in her hands. "Detective Porter, this came in this morning."
No sender.
Andrew frowned, taking the envelope and opening it. Inside were a series of photographs. They showed Reynolds meeting with a group of men in a dark alley, exchanging what appeared to be a small black package. Attached to the photos was a note with a short but chilling message. "He's more than just a dirty cop.
Dig deeper."
Andrew's heartbeat quickened. This was no longer just a case of abuse of power. Reynolds might be involved with a criminal organization. Without hesitation, Andrew picked up his phone and called a trusted colleague from Internal Affairs. "I need you to check something for me. Has Reynolds been in contact with anyone outside of work? Especially anyone with a record?" His colleague on the other end sighed. "I'll look into it, but if this is serious, you need to be careful. Reynolds might not be working alone." Andrew hung up the phone, leaning back in his chair, eyes fixed on the photos spread out on his desk. A deep sense of unease crept over him. Last night's confrontation might have been just the tip of the iceberg. If Reynolds truly had connections to the underworld, this wouldn't be just an internal investigation. It could mean an entire network of corrupt individuals operating within the system. Andrew knew he was stepping into a game far more dangerous than he had initially thought. And this time, one wrong move could cost him everything.